The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Now, back to your turn on 1330 WEBY, Northwest Florida's talk radio. The phone lines are open, so call in and join the conversation at 623-1330.
Aren't you glad that you patiently waited? Carl is back. He is in the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio, and you are with him. Freedom Friday with Carl Gallops.
All right, welcome back, Gulf Coast. Welcome back, America. And Larry Klayman, welcome back to Freedom Friday. Folks, you're listening to Freedom Friday. Attorney Larry Klayman is our guest this afternoon. Well, Larry, you have something going on in Florida concerning Obama's ballot eligibility or ineligibility. Tell us about it.
Well, you know, I'm a citizen of Florida, and I ran for the Senate there in 2004 in the Republican primary, so I have a special place in my heart for Florida. But I'm also very proud of Florida because we have election statutes that are the strongest in the country.
Yes.
And our election statutes allow us, a voter, a taxpayer, like my client, Michael Votes, who happens to be a registered Democrat, to challenge someone's eligibility to run for office.
Right.
And also to challenge that on the basis of fraud. So we brought a lawsuit before the presidential primary back last fall asking the court to allow us to conduct discovery and go to trial on the issue of whether Obama was eligible to be president. And clearly we had a legal right to do that. And the judge up there in Tallahassee, Judge Terry Lewis, is a liberal leftist Democrat. Ironically, he also participated in Gore v. Bush back in 2000.
I remember.
A famous case. He threw the case out under bogus reasoning, completely bizarre. He didn't want to face the issues.
Right.
And then we brought another case after the elections, and the same a different judge did the same exact thing. We took an appeal of both. But most recently, the middle-level appellate court, which dodged the issue by saying, well, now that President Obama has been reelected, the whole issue is moot, meaning it's no longer.
Yeah, in other words, if you can break the law and fool the people and get in office, then you're home free.
Right. Well, that's not the law, okay?
Yeah.
And even in the famous case of Roe v. Wade, the abortion case, by the time the woman gave birth, the issue of abortion was moot at that point.
Right.
The court still decided it because it's capable of repetitive conduct.
Right.
Same thing here. This is capable of repetitive conduct. So what's interesting, this week, the Florida Supreme Court, because we took an appeal of the middle-level appellate, the First District Court of Appeal, it's called, dodging the issue by saying it's moot. The Florida Supreme Court says, Klayman, file a brief as to why we should not order the appellate courts to do their job and review the decision of the lower courts, suggesting that the issue is not moot. So that's a positive development. We can't say how they're going to rule in the end.
Right.
But it's clear the Florida Supreme Court has recognized that the appellate courts acted unlawfully in simply dismissing the case without any kind of analysis or opinion. And I might add, the middle-level appellate court sat on this thing for 8 months. We asked them to accelerate it so it would be decided before the elections. And this shows you the corruption in our legal system today, is that these judges are so politicized, they play games with the law, they violate the Florida and U.S. constitutions, and frankly, the American people, much like in 1776, are not having their grievances heard, and it's why we're in a revolutionary state right now.
Absolutely. I agree completely. Larry, let me ask you this, and I'm kind of throwing you a softball, but our people want to know, the listeners want to know, why do you think so many judges and so many courts have refused to hear this case when you and I know the details and the facts, and Lieutenant Zullo and Sheriff Arpaio and all these people? I mean, we're privy to exactly what's there, and when all we've been asking for is for a hearing on the merits of the case, and there have been none at federal levels, but then the couple that kind of edged up to it, like Terry Lewis, before it really got to the complete merits of the case, they dismiss it on absurdities. I mean, down the rabbit hole, Alice in Wonderland absurdities, and it really is surreal.
Well, you know what the second judge wrote? and his name escapes me right now.
Yeah.
I tried to block it from my memory.
Too. I know.
It was ridiculous. He cited a famous movie.
Yeah, I remember that.
About Santa Claus on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, like Santa Claus is Santa Claus. You can't do anything about him. He's Santa Claus. And the president's already the president. And by the way, he appointed my friend, Obama, to a federal court appointment, and he's now sitting in federal court right down the street from me in Tallahassee.
Right.
Translated, it means I'm not going to do anything against Obama because I'd like to be appointed a federal judge, too.
Yeah.
And that's it. They don't want to offend the establishment, Democrat or Republican, because even if you're a Democrat, if you're appointed by a Democrat president, the Republicans can block you from a higher appointment,
right,
and vice versa. So everybody's in it for themselves. Nobody's in it for the American people. We don't have founding fathers like we had in 1776 who pledged their lives and sacred fortunes and honor to create a new nation. What we have people who are corrupt and who will not stick their neck out and, frankly, are simply running out the clock on what they've created as a dying country. And our country is dying. And that's why if we don't save it, if we don't rise up, and I advocate peacefully in a nonviolent way, and wage revolution, we're going to be losing this country quickly. And, the other thing is, and I know that this is a little far afield, but we've been ignoring these international crises. Look at my WorldNet Daily column that's going to be coming out this evening, worldnetdaily.com. It'll be on my website, too, at freedomwatchusa.org. But Iran and North Korea, who are working together, now have the capability of annihilating us.
Right.
And they're going to blackmail us for the rest of our lives at a minimum. Even during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Russia and Cuba did not threaten to nuke us. They just simply had missiles. These people are fanatics, and our politicians have simply looked the other way as they've been, cashing in Washington, D.C., and now we have a real cancer internationally that's about ready to kill us as well.
Yeah. Larry, what's next? Man, you've opened up a whole other can of worms. I really would like to go down that road, and we've got about a minute and a half or 2 minutes. So let me jump back to Florida very quickly. So what's next with the Florida case?
We're going to be filing our petition for writ, as the Supreme Court directed us to do, by April 29th. I might add something quickly, too. We also have another case in Alabama, which has gotten up to the Alabama Supreme Court with Chief Justice Roy Moore. He's the Ten Commandments judge. And Justice Moore has previously expressed his doubt that Obama is eligible to be president. So we're hopeful that we'll get a good result there as well.
Good. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I was hoping, I had it in my notes here before we went out to ask you what you knew about the Alabama case. So Judge Moore has agreed, is what I'm understanding, to hear the case on its merits in the Supreme Court?
Yes, and it won't just be Judge Moore making the decision. He has other justices.
Right.
So hopefully he will agree with us and be influential with those other justices on the Alabama Supreme Court.
Right. And all it will take will be a state or two at the Supreme Court level to declare that the evidence has been heard on its merit and Obama is ineligible, and this snowball will start to gather, don't you think?
Correct. Now, in Florida, we're asking for a declaration he's ineligible. In Alabama, we're asking them to force Obama to produce his original birth certificate.
Right.
Alabama law is not as strong as Florida law, believe it or not, although we may have better judges in Alabama.
Right, and there's the trade-off. Larry Klayman, thank you so much for being here today at Freedom Friday. Will you come back again in the future?
I would love to. Thank you. God bless.
We'd love to have you back. God bless you as well. Folks, you are listening to Freedom Friday with Carl Gallup.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.